Hello and welcome to today's Salesforce User Group webinar, where we hope that in just 30 minutes we can help answer your burning Salesforce how-to questions, provide you with a few tips and tricks, and overall enhance your user experience within Salesforce. My name is Chad Collette and I lead the marketing team here at Ledgeview Partners. For those not familiar with Ledgeview, we're a Salesforce Silver Partner and help businesses transform their approach to sales, marketing, and customer service by aligning those teams to focus on improving their customers' experience and providing management with metrics through technology to evaluate success. And before I introduce our user group leader for today, I have a couple of quick housekeeping items to cover. First, I want to mention that today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. All attendees will receive an email immediately following this webinar with a link to access the presentation. We encourage you to share this with your users and your network. Also, when we're complete, there'll be a very brief survey that we would love to get your feedback on. Now, to ensure the best audio quality, we have everyone in listen-only mode. But if you have a question, please submit those in the question pane of your GoToWebinar control panel. We have a pretty full agenda for today, so if we're not able to answer your question directly during the presentation, we will definitely follow up with you after the live session. Now let me introduce our user group leader for today, Ben Dvoracek. Ben is a true Salesforce enthusiast and holds multiple certifications, including a developer, administrator, and sales cloud consultant, service cloud consultant, platform developer, data architecture and management designer, and to top it all off, advanced administrator. Bottom line, this guy knows Salesforce, and we are super excited to have him with us today to lead this online user group and provide valuable insight that will help you, everyone here, get more from Salesforce. Ben, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Chad. Like Chad said, my name's Ben Dvoracek. I'm a developer here at Ledgeview Partners, and I'm really happy to be here giving this webinar today. So for today's webinar, the main topic that I chose for today is going to be list views, and list views are awesome. They're like the advanced search of Salesforce, and we'll go into more about what that is here. Well, we're going to be covering a couple of topics about list views today. Why would you want to use a list view? What can you do with it? And we'll go through a couple of demos and examples. You know, they're like the advanced search, but you know, they're not a replacement for the global search in Salesforce, that little search box up top. So there's certain things that list views do better, and there's certain things that the global search does better, and we'll get into what that is as well. So a list view, just as a quick example, so you would use it if you know exactly what you're looking for. You know, you want to see the exact set of results that you want and make sure that you're not getting anything that you don't want. And whereas with global search, you're going to be looking for something in general, like you know the name of an account, but maybe you don't know the exact spelling of it, or you know what state you're looking for something in. You know, if you're looking for accounts in Kentucky, that could be another way to find those, is by using that global search. So why would we want to use a list view? You know, it's more powerful than search. With a list view, we can do things like find the outliers in your data, so that can be very useful for data cleansing. If you've got data in your Salesforce that you don't want in there, list views are going to be a really, really great way to be able to find that data and get rid of it or correct it to make sure that it is the kind of data that you want inside your Salesforce. And we're actually going to do a little example about that later to show you how you can use a list view to do data cleansing, you know, like a mass data cleanse. That's something that I think is very powerful and very useful to be able to have inside your Salesforce. Another reason that you're going to be wanting to use list views is every single user in your Salesforce can use them. It's not just for administrators, it's not just for developers. Everyone can use them, and they can all have their own private list views. So those are list views that aren't going to show up for other people inside your Salesforce. They're only going to show up for you. So if you have a set of data that only you care about, like maybe you're the account executive for a certain set of accounts, and you just want to have a list of all of those accounts available on hand at the click of a button, you're going to want to build a list view for that, and you'll be able to look at them, sort them, change what fields you see in that list view, and be able to click into them to do certain activities against them, like if you're going to make a call or log a call against that account. That's a really great way to be able to navigate to it quickly. And then finally, once you've set up a list view, you can come back to it later. You're not going to need to rebuild it every single time that you want. You know, it's not like Googling for a certain website that you can't remember the URL of. You don't need to go to Google, type it in, and then navigate to it. You can build it and save it, and then navigate back to it inside of Salesforce, and you'll see that same set of accounts, or that same set of opportunities, or that same set of contacts every time that you navigate to that list view. And there are certain exceptions to that. We'll get into list views that kind of change with time as well later here in the presentation. So some of the things that you can do with list views, you can specify which fields you want to see inside of your list view. So what that means is with search results, you're going to see the same set of fields every time you search. You know, for account, you're probably going to see I think the default configuration is you see the account name and maybe the state and zip code and maybe some kind of note field. And whether you're searching for accounts by what state they're in or accounts by what their name is, you're always going to see that same set of fields when you're using the search form in Salesforce. But with a list view, if you make one of them, you're going to be able to see different sets of fields for different list views. So potentially you could have two list views that have the same criteria, like maybe it's accounts that were created in 2012, and you could have different sets of fields showing for those same list views. So you would have two list views that show accounts created in 2012, and you could see like maybe profit margin. It could be a list view that is centered around seeing, you know, what kind of profit margin that account is seeing, and then maybe a list view that is centered around how many opportunities that set of accounts has. And we'll definitely do a demo to kind of show you how to change out what fields you can see in your list views there. You can get very, very specific about what fields that you want to search or filter on inside of a list view there, and that's going to allow you to look at very specific things like, you know, matching zip codes exactly or matching profit amount exactly in an opportunity. So you can see large opportunities, like opportunities where the amount, you know, is over $1 million. Everybody wants one of those. We can look at, we can use advanced options as well in a list view to see relative dates, or advanced options like relative dates to see data that is fresh. So we can do something like build a list view for opportunities that shows opportunities created last week. So that way, you know, if you're a sales manager, you can go ahead and look at all of the opportunities created by your sales team for that past week. And that'll allow you to review them and, you know, discuss those with your teammates. We'll also, you can also mass update records from a list view. And I'll definitely do a demo on that. That's my favorite feature of list views by far. And then finally, in Lightning Experience, you can also do some on-the-fly charting. It's not, you know, super powerful charting, but it's something that lets you visualize data in a quick and clean manner. So we're going to go into some of the live examples now here. I've created some test data in a Salesforce org, and hopefully everybody can see my screen floating in there. So that is our test org, and I'm just going to flip back to the slide really fast to make sure that you guys can see that as well there. So we're going to use list views we're going to create 3 different list views here. We're just going to show 3 quick examples of list views. So we're going to look at all contacts that were created in the last week and go into some of the details about what else we can do with that list view once we've got it created. We're also going to do a mass update. on accounts, and we're going to do a little bit of on-the-fly charting and lightning experience. So I'll start off with the first example here. That's going to be showing all contacts created in the last week. So here, so in here, we've got a couple of list views that are in here already. Some of these are ones that came with Salesforce by default. I'm hoping that the resolution is high enough that everyone can see this here. But there's all accounts, my accounts, which are accounts owned by you, new this week, which is accounts that were created this week, and recently viewed accounts, which is a special list that we can't really do a whole lot with. And then there's a custom one in there that I made as well for when we're going to be doing our mass update for the next demo here. So we're going to go ahead and create a new list view by clicking Create New View here. And that's going to pull up a screen where we can create our list view. And that was done right from the Account tab here. So to be able to create a list view, first you do need to navigate to that Account homepage tab there. So we're going to go ahead and call this list view. Actually, we're going to do this on the Contact object here. So I just flipped over to the Contact object, and we're going to call it Contacts Created Last Week. Down here, there's some filter criteria, and filter criteria is how we define what we want to show up in our list view. So one of the main mistakes that I see made with filter criteria is all contacts versus my contacts. And this kind of option is going to be present for every single list view. If you select all contacts there, that is going to look at everyone's contacts. If you only select my contacts, you're only going to see contacts that are owned by you. Even if you put filter criteria along the bottom here, you're still only going to see those contacts that are owned by you. And that can end up being very confusing when you only see 10 contacts when you're expecting to see potentially thousands of them. So down here in the filter criteria, we get access to all the fields on contact here, and we can specify what we want to match on within that field there. So if we wanted to look at contacts in a certain state, we could use this mailing state province field and look for, Kentucky or something in here. Or if we wanted to, so there's a birth date field in here as well. We could also look for contacts that were born before 1980 by doing a filter on the birth date field. So that would, when we save this list view here and then look at it, we would only see contacts that were born before 1980. And obviously, contacts that don't have a birth date filled in, we're not going to see because there is no data in that birth date field, so it's not going to show up in that list view there. So I'm going to go ahead and change this over to show us contacts that were created last week. Just got to find the created date field here. So created date equals last week. We'll make it this week, actually, because I know I did create some this week. I want to make sure we've got results here. And we can add additional filter criteria in here too. So if you have 2 fields, 3 fields, 4 fields that you want to filter on, you can fill all those up in here. And you can keep adding rows till the cows come home here. So I'm not sure what the limit is on the number of rows that you can have in your filter criteria. There may be one. And filter logic, this is a little advanced down here. We can maybe get into this in another webinar at a later time here. And then finally, in step 3 here, we have the select fields to display dialog. That's going to allow us to show what fields we want to see inside of our list view here. So since we're filtering on created date, I think it's a great idea to also have that inside of our list view. So I went ahead and added that field here. And you know what? I really don't mind who owns that contact. That's not something that concerns me. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that as well here. And then finally down here at the bottom, this is another important portion of a list view here. This defines who can use that list view here. This is called restrict visibility. If we tick the visible only to me checkbox here, that's going to make it a private list view. That list view is only going to be visible to me. If we tick visible to all users, and if you don't have the correct permissions in Salesforce, you won't be able to tick this here. This option here is usually only available to administrators, and I am an administrator in this org here. So if you tick this, that's going to open up that list view to be able to be seen by all users. So if you have something very useful that you want to share with other people, that's a great option for you there. And then visible to only certain groups of users, that's a way to kind of do this, but only allow certain users to be able to see it. So if you have, an Eastern sales org that you want to have access to an Eastern accounts list view, that's how you would set that up there. And I'm not going to go into that right now. We're just kind of covering the basics here today with list views. So I'm going to go ahead and save this list view here. I'm going to make it only visible to me. It's going to have these fields, and it's only going to show us accounts or contacts that were created this week. And we'll go ahead and hit save here. Here we'll must have. Here's kind of an end result here. So I went ahead and built that same list view here with accounts. So this is showing us here accounts that were created this week. So these are some of the accounts that I added into the system this past week here. And it's showing us, here's the fields that we see along the top here. So these are the fields that we would have selected. And then it's filtered to only show us accounts that were created this week. So we're going to go ahead and do a mass update of accounts here as a demonstration here. So we're going to mass update the industry field on a list of accounts here. And that's going to allow us to clean up our data. So recently we added an option to our industry pick list on account here in this Salesforce org. And that pick list option that we added was titled oil and gas. So we've got a couple of customers, a couple of accounts in our Salesforce here that we want to reclassify to the oil and gas industry. So previously, some of them were categorized as energy, and one of them didn't even have an industry at all. So we're going to go ahead and reclassify those accounts as oil and gas. So a couple of notes about mass updating inside of a list view. I've also got a link at the end here in resources that'll show you all some of the criteria that needs to be in place for mass updating a field in a list view. So what you'll see if you're able to mass update a field inside Salesforce, if you can see me hovering over the field there, there's a pencil icon that pops up next to the field. That means that we can edit that field right inside the list view here. And there's a couple of things that need to be turned on for that to be able to work. One of those is called enhanced list views, and then another one of those is called mass update in enhanced list view. And there will be a link at the end of the webinar here that shows you how to enable those features if they aren't enabled in your org. A lot of orgs, I believe most of them come with those pre-enabled, so hopefully you shouldn't have to worry about changing those options to be able to access that. So I've pulled up a list view here that has that field, that industry field, listed on it. So you can see here I've got that list view, or that field added to the list view. It's the industry field. And that's displaying along the right here. So I want to update, I believe, 5 of these accounts here to be oil and gas now. So I'm going to select these 5 accounts here. It's 3 of them with the energy field, or with the energy option selected in industry, and then 1 that's blank. And then I'm going to go ahead and double click right on one of those fields here. So we've got a window that popped up here that says Edit Industry, and we are going to go ahead and scroll down here and select oil and gas. And then if your mass update option isn't turned on, you're not going to see this option down here. You're only going to be able to just change the field up here. You're not going to see the option to apply changes to all 4 selected records. So if I hit save here, that's going to update all 4 of these records. And this is something that is super useful for cleaning up messy data inside of Salesforce. If you know that you've got a field that isn't filled out, or a new option that was added to a field and you need to change old records to be able to continue to use that field effectively, this is a really easy way to update a field on a lot of records at once. So we'll go ahead and hit save there. And you can see it's highlighted yellow here to signify that we changed it and it is updated. I'm going to go ahead and click into one of these records here. And you can see that the industry on there is oil and gas then. All right. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and switch over to Lightning Experience here. I don't know how many people use Lightning Experience, but it is relatively new. And there are a lot of things that it does great, and some things from Classic that haven't made their way over to Lightning Experience quite yet. But one of the cool things that I think is in Lightning Experience now is on-the-fly charting in a list view. So if you have a list view of, a couple, 10, 100 records, and you want to be able to see a certain piece of data for that list view, you can do that inside of Lightning Experience. You can see that data inside of a chart, inside of a bar chart or a donut chart, right inside of Salesforce there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up for you here now. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at the account list view here again. And right now we're seeing our recently viewed here. So I clicked over here. Then we're going to go ahead and pull up the all account list view. So we're just going to go ahead and chart all the accounts since there aren't too many in here. And the place that you can chart inside of Salesforce here is this pie icon over here. If we go ahead and pull that up here, what I've done here is I've gone ahead and actually made a account by industry chart here. And you can see that it's showing what industry each of our accounts is associated with and how many of those accounts there are. So that's one of the ways you can set this up inside of Salesforce, to show you how many records with a certain value in a pick list are there inside of Salesforce. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to account or contacts here. We'll go ahead and chart some of those out too. So over here, we can see how many contacts do we have on each account. And that's just another one that was pre-made here. We're going to go ahead and make one ourselves here right away. So we're going to go ahead and click this little cog wheel down here and go ahead and hit New Chart. We're going to call it User Group, and we're just going to pick some kind of arbitrary criteria here for this. So to be able to, so what we're going to do here, some of these options are Here's the type of chart that we're going to do. We're going to do a horizontal bar chart. Aggregate type is for what we're going to do is we're going to count the number of accounts that are present for each value in this grouping field down here. So we can ignore this, right? We can ignore this aggregate field. So what we can do is, I believe if we do shipping state province here, this will give us some good data here, since I believe there is some data in that field in this test org here. So what this is going to do is it's going to show us all accounts grouped by the state. And it's going to tell us how many are in each state. Go ahead and hit save here on this. And it looks like we're getting some data back here, but it's not exactly what I expected to see here. And again, Lightning Experience is relatively new, so sometimes we see little bugs like this here, but what it should be showing us here is the number of accounts that are in each of these locations here. So, you know, this is a correct example here. We can see what industry these particular accounts in the list view are in here, over here, like that. And that's kind of the demo, the high-level overview of list views, what you can do with them, and what sort of capabilities list view has here. So we're going to go ahead and continue on here. So I wanted to quickly cover a couple of user questions and challenges. I know we're kind of running down on time here. So one of the challenges that users submitted to us when they signed up for the webinar here was that keeping data clean was kind of tough. So hopefully with list views now in your arsenal there, you're able to do a little bit more with cleaning up that data. You're able to manage duplicates, figure out what fields aren't filled in, and one thing that I recommend is to appoint a data steward, and that's going to be someone that is in charge of keeping data clean. Implementing reports and dashboards was another concern. I think that's a great topic for whatever the next user group is. So list views translate directly into reports and dashboards. Those filters are how you figure out what you want to see in those reports. And a couple of summer 16 update mini highlights here. I'm going to kind of skip over the global pick list and restricted pick list since we're kind of running short on time here. There are new editions coming out in summer 16. So if you're on professional edition, you're going to see that you now have access to process builder profiles, record types, and layouts. If you don't know what those are, you will want to, because those are very powerful tools that you didn't have access to before. Enterprise Edition now includes a partial data sandbox, which means that your developers are going to be very, very happy if they're having to work with data and make sure that data is updated. And I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chad here since we're kind of running down on time. Here's a couple of resources for this presentation. Chad, are you there?
Yep. All right. Thanks a lot, Ben. Really appreciate it. So, you know, I know Ben could sit and talk about Salesforce all day long if we gave him the opportunity to. So again, here's some Salesforce resources. Really appreciate it. We'll be sending out this information to you in an email with a follow-up, so you can take a look at this and recap. We encourage you to share this with other users in your organization. Ben, if you want to advance the slide one more, please.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got just a couple other upcoming webinars you want to check out. More information at ledgeviewpartners.com on all this. We've got a great video library and a lot of other resources. So we really appreciate everybody taking the time today to join us. I want to thank you and have a great day.